You are welcome to another video of the course IP version 6. In this section, I'm going to discuss and demonstrate IPv6 static routing in which we configure routes and route updates manually. And in compared to IPv4, there are a few changes in both concepts and syntax in which we will discuss in this lesson. To start discussing static routing in IP version 6, I've already prepared this topology in which two branches, branch 1 and branch 2, are connected to each other through headquarters. For the link local addressing, I've configured all interfaces of each router with the same link local address, since link local address is unique only in the scope of link. Therefore, we are allowed to configure all interfaces of the same router with the same link local address. For example, for the central office, I've configured FE80AA for both interfaces, FE801 for interfaces in branch 1, and FE802 for the interfaces connected to branch 2. For the global IPv6 addressing, I have chosen IPv6 address 2001 AA01 for the connection between central office and branch 1, and 02 for the connection between headquarter and branch 2. In addition to these two IP addresses, I've already also configured in each branch one loopback interface 2000 AA1 and 2, in which they are going to communicate to each other, but it's not possible until IPv6 static routing is completely configured. To configure static routing, let's start with the branch offices. In the branch offices, I've just configured one default route which forward the traffic to unknown addresses through central office. We configure default route in IPv6 with ::/0, which is equivalent to 0000 in IP version 4. And for the next hop address, I've chosen the link local address of the central office, which is the same for all interfaces, FE80AA. But as you know, link local address does not mean until we also configure the outgoing interface. Therefore, when you configure a route with link local address as a next hop, it is necessary also to configure outgoing interface. So ETH00 as outgoing interface and FE80AA, which is link local address of the central office. Exactly the same configuration applies to the second branch BR2 in this topology. The question is why I've configured link local address of the central office as the next hop address. This is because of two reasons. First, when we configure dynamic routing protocols in the following steps, we will see that routing packets will be advertised through the routing protocol with link local address of the routers, and always link local address will be used as the next hop address in the routing table when you configure dynamic routing protocol. And therefore, I've also configured link local address as the next hop with static routing. As the second reason, probably you have multiple non-link local address in each link. For example, global unique address and unique local address. In such situations, it's difficult to decide which IPv6 address should be used as the next hop address. And because of that, mostly I prefer to configure link local address as the next hop address. But just to show you, it is also possible to configure global unique address or the other type of IPv6 addresses as the next hop address. In central office, I've showed three options. Before that, let's check the configuration of branch offices from routing perspective. Include IPv6 route, the only default route, show running config, and include route. Only a default route exists in branch routers. For the central office, I've here written three options. The first options, exactly like branch offices, link local address as a next hop with outgoing interface, which is necessary, but it's also possible to choose global address. For example, the only other non-link local address in the interfaces. But when you choose to configure global or any other type of IPv6 address as the next hop address, it is not necessary to choose outgoing interface when it is reachable, even when you don't configure the outgoing interface. And because of that here, once I've written with outgoing interface and once without outgoing interface. At the moment, in the central office, show running config, include route, we see link local address as the outgoing interface. Let's check the connectivity between branch 1 and branch 2 with source loopback without source. And you see the traffic is forwarded through AA, which is central office. But we can change the configuration of central office with choosing no at the beginning of these commands. And instead of that, we will choose to configure for the branch 1, 2001, AA01, and 1 as the next hop. And for the branch 2, 02, 2 as the next hop address. Again, we check the connectivity between branch 1 and branch 2, and still the connectivity exists. And therefore, there are some options for configuring IPv6 static routing. To check the routing table in any routers in IPv6, the command is not different. Only we use IPv6 instead of IP, show IPv6 route. To check the routing table in IPv6, there are only one static route in the branch router, and show IPv6 route in the central office. There are two static routes, but we can limit the output with configuring static at the end of the command. Only a static IPv6 route will be displayed in the output.